Doctor, as a title, originates from the Latin word of the same spelling and meaning. The word is originally an agentive noun of the Latin verb docēre, to teach. It has been used as an honored academic title for over a millennium in Europe, where it dates back to the rise of the first universities, the earliest of which was the University of Paris. This use spread to the Americas, through its former European colonies, and is now prevalent in most of the world. Contracted doctor or doctor. It is used as a designation for a person who has obtained a research doctorate. Origins. The doctorate appeared in medieval Europe as a license to teach at a medieval university. Its roots can be traced to the early church when the term doctor referred to the apostles, church fathers and other Christian authorities who taught and interpreted the Bible. The right to grant a licentia docendi was originally reserved to the church, which required the applicant to pass a test, take an oath of allegiance and pay a fee. The Third Council of the Lateran of 1179 guaranteed the access, now largely free of charge, of all able applicants, who were, however, still tested for aptitude by the ecclesiastic scholastic. This right remained a bone of contention between the church authorities and the slowly emancipating universities, but was granted by the Pope to the University of Paris in 1213, where it became a universal license to teach. However, while the licentia continued to hold a higher prestige than the bachelor's degree, it was ultimately reduced to an intermediate step to the magister and doctorate, both of which now became the exclusive qualification for teaching. The earliest doctoral degrees reflected the historical separation of all university study into these three fields. Over time the D.D. has gradually become less common, and studies outside theology, law, and medicine have become more common. The Ph.D. was originally a degree granted by a university to learned individuals who had achieved the approval of the peers and who had demonstrated a long and productive career in the field of philosophy. The appellation of doctor was usually awarded only when the individual was in middle age. It indicated a life dedicated to learning, knowledge, and the spread of knowledge. The Ph.D. entered widespread use in the 19th century at Friedrich Wilhelm University in Berlin as a degree to be granted to someone who had undertaken original research in the sciences and humanities. For there it spread to the United States, arriving at Yale University in 1861, and then to the United Kingdom in 1921. This displaced the existing Doctor of Philosophy degree in some universities. For instance, the D.Phil at the University of St Andrews was discontinued and replaced with the Ph.D. However, some UK universities such as Oxford and Sussex retain the D.Phil appellation for the research degrees, as, until recently, did the University of Waikato in New Zealand. Historically, lawyers in most European countries were addressed with the title of doctor, and countries outside Europe have generally followed the practice of the European country which had policy influence through modernization or colonialization. The first university degrees, starting with the law school of the University of Bologna in the 11th century, were law degrees, and doctorates. Degrees in other fields were not granted until the 13th century, but the doctorate continued to be the only degree offered at many of the old universities up until the 20th century. As a result, in many of the southern European countries, including Portugal, Spain and Italy, lawyers have traditionally been addressed as doctor. The title of doctor for attorneys has not customarily been used in English-speaking countries where lawyers were not required to have a university degree and were trained by other attorneys by apprenticeship or in the Inns of Court, the exception being those areas where up to the 19th century, civil law rather than common law was the governing tradition, including admiralty law. probate and ecclesiastical law. Such cases were heard in the Doctors' Commons, and argued by advocates who held degrees either of Doctor of Civil Law at Oxford or Doctor of Law at Cambridge. As such, lawyers practicing common law in England were not doctoral candidates and had not earned a doctorate. When university degrees became more common for those wanting to qualify as a lawyer in England, the degree awarded was the legum baccalaureus, or Bachelor of Laws, which is abbreviated LB. In some countries, holders of the first law degree traditionally use the title of doctor. Doctor as a noun. Throughout much of the academic world, the term doctor refers to an individual who has earned a degree of Doctor of Philosophy, or Ph.D., or other research doctorates such as the Doctor of Science, or Sc.D. Beyond academia, many professions, such as law and medicine, have developed professional degrees that rank lower on the UNESCO International Standard Classification of Education, such as the Juris Doctor J.D., Doctor of Medicine. Forms of address. When addressing several people, each of whom holds a doctoral title, one may use the plural contraction Drs, or in some languages, Dres, may be used. For example, instead of Dr. Miller and Dr. Rubenstein, Drs. Miller and Rubenstein. When referring to relatives with the same surname, the form the Doctors Smith can be used. The abbreviation DRS can also refer to doctorandus, a Dutch academic title.